Hello, everyone. Welcome to another 2023 FallDocs screening. My name is Armando Zamudio, and I am the Public Programs and Events Coordinator here at IDA. For our blind and low vision attendees, I'm going to describe myself. I am a light-skinned Mexican-American wearing a black shirt, a black jacket. I have glasses on, and I am sitting under a bookshelf. Thank you to our media sponsors, KCRW and Variety, for sponsoring our 2023 FallDocs. This evening, we'll have a conversation between film critic and writer Amy Nicholson, director Eliza Capai, producer Mariana Ginesca, whose film Incompatible with Life won the best film and editing at It's All True Film Festival. To see more amazing films like this, please visit www.documentary.org/FallDocs. Now, before we get started, I would like to offer a brief land acknowledgement. We recognize the Gabrielino Tongva as the past, present, and future caretakers of the land, water, and cultural resources in the unceded territory of Los Angeles. Thank you so much to David and Cheyenne from Pro Bono ASL for ASL interpreting this discussion. And with that, I will pass it on to Amy. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. My name is Amy Nicholson. I am a film critic, and I'm very excited to be moderating this conversation with Incompatible with Life. For our blind and low vision attendees, I'm going to describe myself really quickly. I am a blonde. I'm wearing a dark green tank top, and I'm seated on a green velvet couch in my own living room. And there might be a big gray cat walking past every so often. Beyond that, let me introduce our wonderful filmmakers that we have here. We have our director, Eliza Capai, and we have our wonderful producer, Mariana Ginesca. Welcome, ladies. I kind of want to start a conversation the way you start the film, with just a thank you. A thank you to you for having this conversation, and a thank you for you to introducing us to all of these women and all of their experiences. Just to plunge in, it feels like at the beginning of the story, you're both sort of wrestling with this idea of, we need to make this film, but we're not sure how to tell this film. And it feels like you had to make a decision just to sort of plunge in and trust that you would figure it out as the process went along. So the first thing I'm kind of curious to know is, tell me about deciding to go through this, and then on that actual first day of filming, we're actually doing it. What was the first thing you filmed that really made it into this final project?
Thanks so much for the introducing. My name is Eliza Capai. I'm the director of the film. And describing myself, I would say I'm a white person in Brazil, where I'm from. But in the US, I'm a Latin person. I'm wearing a pink dress, and I'm in a hotel room. It's kind of hard to answer this question because this is not a film that we planned to make. It was during the pandemic. I got pregnant. I was 40 years old, and I was really excited with the new. I want that pregnancy, and I started to feel, but as an album family, I was not planning to make a film with that. And the moment that I really decided to make a film was when I received the worst news that I could have in that moment. That was the news that my baby would not survive. That there was a malformation incompatible with life. And in that moment, I had two very different feelings that were the feelings that made me decide to make this film. The first feeling was the sadness. I could not imagine. I was pregnant for 14 weeks, and I could not imagine that someone could be so sad because of a so small person. And I felt really sadness. I remember about a lot of friends of mine that spoke about lose some pregnancy or make some abortion and how sad they were. And I could not connect it with the feeling they told me about. And in that moment, I started to hear about a lot of other women and friends of mine that were in the same situation and how sad they also were. And I understood that it's like, this is the kind of feeling that rests with us inside our rooms. And why we don't see the suffering of other people, what happened inside of other people, we don't know how to act in a situation like this one. Because it's a kind of grief, but it's a grief of someone that no one had never seen. So it makes us more alone with this suffering. So I work with documenting women for the last 2 decades. And I was like, if I'm not able to film myself, I will never have the right to film any other women in my life. That was the feeling that I had in that moment. And in the other side, in that moment, I was living in Portugal, whereas abortion is legal. In Brazil, abortion is illegal. And the doctors told me to make an interruption of my pregnancy in that moment. And I felt so angry. And this is the second feeling, thinking about what would be to be in Brazil and knowing that Brazilian women in the same situation as mine were living not just the sadness, but also this crazy situation, this horrible situation of have to make an unsafe and illegal abortion. Or that moment I didn't know that it's also possible to judicialize the decision, but it's like, it's a very complex lot of things that you have to make to maybe have the legal right to make an abortion. So very long answer, but when I was feeling these two feelings, sadness and anger, I decided to start the film. And of course, when the moments that I started to shoot, that we put the camera in the tripod, was the way that we had to deal with the situation. And I'm talking in the plural because I was with my partner at that moment, that is João. He's also a photographer. And the way we deal with what we cannot understand is making images to be able to process that. And that was the moment that we were like, let's see what we'll be able to make with this situation that we cannot understand why it's happening.
Mariana, would you like to introduce yourself and talk about how you came on board?
Okay, sure. Thank you so much, Amy. Okay, I'm Mariana Genesca. I'm producer. I'm a Brazilian white woman, a blonde woman. I'm sitting in a chair. Behind me, there's a white curtain. Yeah, it's very difficult to talk about this movie. You know, it's something that very. I work with Eliza. It was our second feature film together. We started working together in a last feature film that's called Your Turn. There's a completely different subject, and was very nice to make this production. We premiered this film in Berlinale in 2019, and it's completely different kind of movie, you know. So, but since then we became very close friends, you know, something more than the professional. There is huge I have proud of Eliza and admiration of Eliza of her work, something that it's really she's a big inspiration for me. So, but not only in the professional area, but also in the personal area. So when this incident happens with her, it was very difficult moment, and she told me, and she was thinking about to continue filming her pregnancy, and possibly thinking about making a movie. And my only feeling was that I understand the urgency that we have to talk about this kind of subject, this kind of myself. I have 2 miscarriages before having my daughter. So something that's really common, you know, it's happened to many women around the world, something like a universal history, you know. So I was like completely connected with her story as a very close friend, and as a producer, I felt that we should make this movie, you know, we really should. And I felt very, it's like a privilege to me to be with her.
I mean, that's true, sort of what you're both saying, like this, a lot of what, you know, Eliza, you sort of dedicated your life to now in working with Mariana in your films is like telling stories where you get to amplify underheard voices. And, you know, these are voices that talking about things that people need to listen to more, you know, to understand. And what I think is so interesting is, you know, you've done this, of course, with films like set in the rainforest in Africa. You've talked to students, you've talked to a woman who's in jail for murder. And here, how did that push to sort of listen to those who haven't gotten to tell their story kind of play into finding the women that you chose here who were willing to share their stories? Like, was there kind of a real need to find women who had different backgrounds, who had different experiences?
Thanks for this question. Like, in the moment that we decide that the story of the film shouldn't be just my story, you know, like as you know, like my story is in the present tense. You know, we are watching what is going on. The camera is just there observing. And when I understood that it was important to speak with other Brazilian women that was in the same situation of incompatibility with life and pregnancies, I understood that was really important to talk about diversity. It means, probably as an American you cannot understand, but there are very different accents. So there are women from very different parts of Brazil, very different social and economical backgrounds, different colors, and also a lot of different religions. But more than that, I'd like also to talk about different decisions. Now, of course, this is a film that talks about abortion. I'm a pro-choice person, but I also, and I would like to make this film a pro-choice. And it means also to respect people that decided to don't make an abortion. So half of the characters they decided to don't have an abortions, and half of the characters decided to have abortions. And we made very different research. I started myself going to hospitals, public hospitals in Brazil. And we also spoke with lawyers that were trying to make the judicialization of the cases of abortions. And we work with a researcher finding those women. And in the end, I decided to also share my own story in the internet and asking women that had similar process to contact me. And it was really strong because a lot of people want to speak. I spoke with much more than those 6 women that are in the film. And it was really clear that each one of them had to do something with their own stories. And it's like, because as I said, those stories are in general inside the rooms. So a lot of the friends, even the friends don't know about that. And so the story was like that. I started to contact with them. We spoke a lot by internet in the beginning. It was during the pandemic that we made the shooting. And then was really strong moments that we had together. And I would like to share also, for example, from the 6 women, 3 of them, they had tattoos with or the date of the birth and death of their babies, or with the feet of the baby, or with the star, because the name of the baby was Estrela, that means the star. And they were trying to mark in their bodies that those babies existed. And I feel that I made the same with the film. I made my tattoo. My tattoo is making films. And I think each woman wants to share their stories. And I listen from, I would say, all of them, that thanks so much for making the film, because we were able to finish our grief process making the film, because our sad story now is able to help other women, other parents in the same situation as the one we had.
Yeah, you really kind of see in this process, it felt like they're what you hear in their voices is they're all trying to articulate what happened inside of them too, the emotions, the feelings, the happy ones, even when the news was still sort of good, and having this camera there kind of encourages them to find words. I've sort of felt like that watching it. What really struck me is not just their courage, but not the fact that all of their stories are sort of united by this pain. There was this really unifying embrace that you wanted to put around all of them, and then the commonality of things that you point out, like especially when you start talking about dreams and nightmares, and then including like these oceanic dream sequences. I mean, when did you think of that as sort of folding that into the visuals here?
I had that dream that is in the film that in the moment I thought was just a nightmare about losing the head of the baby into an ultrasound image in the ocean. And then the baby that I had was a malformation in the brain. So I remember this dream, of course, in the very first second that I heard about the malformation. And I stayed with this image with me. And during all the talks that I had, was really common to listen to women talking about the dreams and nightmares they had. I think people know that it's very common for pregnant women to have a lot of dreams because our hormones are like very different from the normal, and we have a lot of dreams. And in the case of malformation, we try to be like rational persons, but I think when we are pregnant, we remember how animals we are. And those animals, we have bodies, and the body is communicating. Even if you cannot understand what is going on inside rationally, we know what is happening. So I'm pretty sure that my dream was trying to alert me what was going on inside my belly, because my body knew what was going on, like it was inside me. And all of the women, they have different kind of dreams, and in my vision, it was the body trying to inform them what was going on with the baby. So with this information, I thought about how to put that in the film without this explanation that I'm giving now, and also trying to translate the feelings that, as you said, was the women are totally different, but the feelings were kind of the same. And I was really impressed when I started to listen all of them with the same feelings that I had. And so we spoke a lot about the situations and feelings they had, and I was trying to translate into cinematography and using the water. It's a kind of cliche, but I think it's the best cliche for this moment. We are talking about pregnancy. There is someone inside the water. We are talking about lose the control of life, and this image of the mattress inside the ocean, that you have no control about yourself. And I was thinking about what kind of image could translate the feelings that were the very common feelings, and also the dreams and nightmares that we had. So that's how it started, and was also a kind of therapy to make those images, because I was putting myself in the situation of the feelings that I had in the past and trying to go to another place with those feelings.
Yeah, I mean, this film I feel like really leads with empathy in that way. A choice that I think that you both made that I think is really powerful, as well as I know we're talking about women and women's experiences, but you really take the time to also show us what's happening to the men, which I think sometimes can get overlooked in this conversation when it's like happening at large.
Yeah, it's so obvious that like babies are made by a woman and a man. So it's like we have to talk with the men too in this conversation. And I don't know, for me, the part of where the men are talking are the parts that I'm still crying until nowadays watching the film, because I think men in our society, we know women, how many violence we suffer. No, and I'm a feminist. I make films talking about sexism and the situation of women in the world, but it's very clear how many violence men suffers also. And I think in this kind of situation, when you lose a baby, and a baby, all the women, including myself in the film, the couple want the babies. So men that grow up listening don't You cannot cry, you are a man, and things like that. When you are in a situation that your beloved one is pregnant and is suffering a lot because just discovered that we lose the baby and your baby will die, like a man that grew up listening, oh, you cannot cry, how can you react? How can you enable yourself to feel what you are feeling and process this feeling and transform that? During this process, like I understood that a lot of couples they broke up because it's impossible to go with this feeling, because in general the men start to allow themselves to connect with the feeling much later than the women, and sometimes the gap created in this time like doesn't make possible to the relationship to keep going on. So I thought it was, if we think about the timeline, the duration of the man in the film is small, but I think it really puts the film in another level. And for me, sorry, people that hadn't seen the film, but it's like, I will be a little spoiler of the film, but it's like I broke up my relationship in the end of the film, you know, like, and João is all the time in the film, and all the time we were talking about the film. And the first time that he watched the cut of the film, we were together, and he started to cry, and he was not able to cry during the process. And we were able to speak about the situation we had together. And I think, and then I started to listen from a lot of other men that were in the screenings that we had in festivals until now, and was really strong because a lot of men were really crying during the screenings, and they came to talk with me, crying and talking or about the experience they had in life, about FIV, how to say FIV, like fertilization in vitro process, that a lot of people lose a lot of pregnancies during those process, and talking about the abortion or pregnancy loss of the mothers, and they were able to understand what the mothers were feeling watching the film and things like that. So it's like, I think we really have to invite men to speak with us, you know, to think about what we do when with our kids when they are alive, and also what to do with the couple and with the situation when we have a situation like this one.
I'm sorry, and just editing what Eliza said, it's something very impressionant. How people leave the screenings, like, you know, completely, many of them crying a lot. We made some screenings here in Brazil in some festivals. Now we are this moment in US, we're going to screening in LA and then in New York, some very important moment for us to share this story, the story here with this audience. But it's something, and in Brazil, very, you know, we became, Eliza, people contact you, to say how the movie was something powerful to yes, and many, not only women, also the men became very, yes.
Well, and as
And
you're
sorry, just to complement that, we will start our impact campaign this month in Brazil. Now we will work, of course, with the decriminalization of abortion, that the Supreme Court in Brazil can now decide and change the situation of women in Brazil. In Brazil, one woman dies each 2 days because of abortion. This is one side of the impact campaign. We want to work inside hospitals, sensibilizing all doctors and nurses about how to deal with women in this kind of situation. And we want to go to the couples, you know, to be able to reach those couples and put us together in a home theater to watch together, cry together, and feel less alone. And because when we feel less alone about the situation, we are able to move on.
It's, I mean, yeah, Eliza, you recently wrote, like, I think an editorial for the New York Times earlier this fall about the push to decriminalize abortion across Latin America using the courts, you know, talking about cases in Mexico, Colombia, of course, Brazil, and the fact that now you're here in America showing the kind of people that also need to see that you're taking this film to Yale Law School, for example, to screen it there. I mean, I think it shows the range of people who need to see this, as you're saying, couples and people who are trying to fight to keep women safe. And I think it also shows something that I think you both probably have a really strong insight into. You know, I mean, I know, Eliza, like you're an MIT fellow yourself, like, you have a very strong insight into, I would say, how similar the states are to Brazil right now, you know, both in rights for women, rights for families, I should say, and also just being giant economies who aren't really necessarily reflecting what their people themselves want, from the environment to economic to personal physical autonomy.
Yeah, when I started this film, I would never imagined that the US would be so similar to Brazil in the abortion as it is now. And I'm so sorry about what is going on in the US after the Roe and Wade reversion. And yeah, I think we are living a very sad moment in a lot of parts of the world because of the extreme right and the movements that push back democracy. And I think it's really clear what this pushback a lot of times is in the body of women, you know, like it's in our bodies. And yeah, I'm sorry about what's happening here. When I read the first time that due to this, the criminalization of abortion in the US, women is dying more because of abortion. I think how can we debate that now with people that it's pro-life, which life, you know, like, and what we try to make in the film is really create an empathetic debate. And maybe it's nice to clarify what I made in the film. And I hope it will also work in the US as a way to put the debate of abortion in another level, in a level of the empathy, and not a level of an empty ideology. Because a lot of times, before I talk about that, I would talk about an example that happened with me. I was in a public place in Brazil and was like previous the next election of the president last year. And people were, I am against abortion, I'm against abortion. And I was like, do you know someone that had an abortion in your life? And they were, no way. And I made an abortion. And I told my story. And I was like, do you think I should be in jail? And they were like, no. But in your case, of course, you have the right to make an abortion because of your baby would die. And I was like, no, I don't have the right to make an abortion in this country. I should be in jail if my abortion was in Brazil. And they was like, wow. Oh, I never thought about that. So the idea of the film is create this kind of empathy, because in Brazil, 1 of each 7 women my age had an abortion. So it's, of course, all those people that I was talking, they know a lot of women that made abortion. They just don't know they made an abortion. Maybe are their moms, maybe are their wives, I don't know. And so the idea of the film was like, pick women from very different realities. I really love the story of Priscilla, for example. The grandfather of Priscilla, he's a minister in Assembleia de Deus. Assembleia de Deus is a very conservative church. They are really, really pro-life. And his grandfather, and Priscilla is an evangelical too, and she was always against abortion. Abortion means kill babies. No, she grew up with that, and she had that inside of her until she saw the situation of her baby, and she was like, I cannot make my beloved baby suffer from the minute 1 until the last minute of her life. And she decided to make an abortion. And her grandfather was with her. Of course, everybody on his church is against abortion, but he was with her because when the situation, and she says, like, I'm quoting her, when the story happened with us, it changed our perception about the situation. So the idea of the film was create this kind of situation when people can put themselves in the place of women. And I decided to just talk with women that want to be moms, because we know when we are talking about abortion in conservative societies, And what is going on in the US now and what happened in Brazil since ever is there are two kinds of women. The good women, the wife, the one that want to have babies, the family one, and the bad one, the one that make abortion. And when you put these two stereotypes, the good ones and the bad ones in the same woman, it's like, and then we can start to talk, because the life is much more complex than good and bad. No, they're much more, it's not black and white. We know how is life. So the idea of the film was, and I really hope that people embrace the film in the US, especially in the states where abortion is criminalized now in the US, to start a conversation. Because unfortunately, the future of those states, if they don't change their laws, is the same of the present and past of Brazil, where abortion, unfortunately, are really, really high. Like in Brazil, it's like almost 500,000 abortions each year. So it's a big answer, but I think it's kind of important, because what I understood in this process, like when a woman wants to make an abortion, and it's not just in the case that I had a medical interruption of pregnancy, in every case, when a woman feels that she has to make an abortion, it's because there is an incompatibility. No, it's in my case was with the life of the fetus, but in general, it's with the life of the mom. So maybe she doesn't have economical situation that allows her to give food for the kid, or time to be with the kid because she has to work to pay the bills, or emotional situation to be able to have a baby. And when the woman decides that she will make an abortion, she will make an abortion, even if it's an unsafe abortion. So criminalized abortion is not putting the numbers down, it's just putting women in much worse situation. And what I also discovered in this process is like the countries where abortion is legal, when a woman goes to make an abortion, the doctor will say, and don't you want to be pregnant again? So what will you do? And so the woman starts to make something and will not be pregnant again. And in Brazil, it's very common to have 1, 2, and 3 abortions, because there is no sexual education to change the situation. So I really hope this film will be able to talk with women also in the US to feel less alone.
Yeah, and just to add something that we need to face, that is in all this case, I think in Brazil is something that we can really see, is that the poor women that will die, because in this case, when the woman decide that she's going to get an abortion, she's going to do. There is no way out. So, but when we talk about people that had money, you will find some way to do it in more secure way. But what we see that the Black women die many times more than white women, in this case. So it's something very, terrible that happens here in Brazil. We are talking about privilege, because the women that had access, that had privilege, in case of Eliza, she was in Portugal, so she could, make everything there. But sometimes women in Brazil that had money need go buy some ticket and go to another country to make a legal abortion there. So it's something completely difficult, something expensive, something that only people with money and privilege can do it. So it's something that's it's really, really important to face that in the end of the day, it's the poor women, it's more Black women that dies in consequence of this kind of unsafe abortion in Brazil.
Well, I think one beautiful feeling about this film that both the two of you have accomplished, Eliza and Mariana, is I feel like anyone who sees this film now feels like they have known somebody and they know somebody's story, and you've really gotten that through with this film, Incompatible with Life. And so we want to thank you so much on behalf of IDA for joining us for this conversation, for making this film, and now for getting to tell us even more about the process of how it was put together. So thank you both so much for being here.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. We are so happy to participate in this FallDocs, and thank you so much, Amy, to be with us.